Hi everyone. This is just a short lecture that I'm posting to talk to you about the proposal argument. So the proposal argument is the third and final writing assignment that we're going to do for this class. And I'm just going to kind of go over what the main characteristics of a proposal are and talk a little bit about the topic for this particular proposal argument assignment. So the three main characteristics of a proposal are one, they call for a change, often in a response to a problem. So usually when you are writing a proposal, you have to identify something that needs to be fixed. Two, they focus on the future. So you want to think about something that needs to be fixed, but needs to be fixed in sort of a substantial way. So if it can be fixed or rectified immediately, then you probably don't need to write a proposal about it. You can probably just go ahead and do it. So what do we need to do now and in the future to ensure that this issue is corrected? And then three, they center on the audience. So when you're writing a proposal, you're thinking about convincing a specific audience that the problem that you're identifying is a problem, and you're trying to consider how do you convince this audience that your solution, the solution that you're proposing, is the right solution to this problem. So, kind of like all of our essays, you really want to think about audience here. So, what do you need to do and say in order to convince this audience? Who is your audience, right? So, it's kind of like just a series of questions to think about. But the thing to remember is that proposals always call for some kind of action. So they aim at getting something done or sometimes at preventing something from being done. So when you identify an issue or a problem, right? How do we need to resolve the problem? What do we need to do? What does your audience need to do? And how can enacting what you are suggesting help solve this issue? So for this essay, I am narrowing down the topics for you. You're going to focus your proposal argument on an issue specific to San Antonio or South Texas more broadly. If you look at the module on Canvas, I've actually identified a list of topics that you will be choosing from. You feel free to sort of expand on those topics or sort of narrow down those topics. But those will be the topics that I'm asking you to choose from. So some of the concerns that are listed on our Canvas are like the lack of public or mass transportation in San Antonio, health disparities such as the diabetes epidemic, like obesity, for example. So if you look at our Canvas page, you can kind of see the full list. But what I mean by narrow down is, for example, you can take a look at a topic like obesity, and you might decide to write about child obesity, for example. So right here, I just kind of have an example of different issues that affect the San Antonio community. So, for example, we can see Bexar County, where San Antonio is located, has one of the highest numbers of domestic violence homicides, sharp rise in child abuse and neglect cases in Bexar County. 1 in 7 adults in Bexar County has diabetes. Nearly 1/4 of the city's population do not have reliable access to public transportation, et cetera, right? So we're thinking about issues sort of like this. One of the reasons why I've narrowed this down for you to San Antonio is because, well, for two reasons. One, it helps you narrow down your audience. So you know that if you are talking about an issue that affects San Antonio / Bexar County, or even, some of the surrounding counties, your audience is therefore a San Antonio / Bexar County / South Texas audience. So you already know then who you are trying to appeal to, right? Essentially, if you live in San Antonio or in the surrounding area, you're appealing to your neighbors, right? To the people that live in the community with you. The second reason is because I wanted you to kind of take a look at the community that we live in, right, and think about sort of what issues people are facing and are experiencing, and start thinking about what can be done to address some of these issues. So I'm just going to briefly go over the key features of a proposal. So, sorry. A well-defined problem is very essential in a proposal essay. Like I said, you have to not just convince your audience that what you're proposing, like the solution you're proposing, is the right solution, but for a lot of issues, sometimes you actually even have to convince people that the issue itself is an issue worth addressing. So that even just kind of saying, oh, hey, like stray animals is a real problem in San Antonio, you're going to have some people who are like, why? What do you mean? Show me some evidence. So a well-defined problem is very necessary, and that helps you demonstrate to your audience that the problem that you're identifying is indeed a problem. So like it says, some problems are self-evident, but other issues maybe that are controversial, and you might find pushback from people, right? Need that evidence. So you must establish at the outset that there is a problem and that it's serious enough to require a solution. And then there's the recommended solution, of course, because that's really like the proposal element of this essay. So once you have defined the problem, you need to describe the solution you're suggesting. It needs to be in detail, right? I need to understand what you're proposing. And it needs to be researched, right? You need to make sure that you're not just sort of like making something up that's not doable, which gets to another issue, is that all solutions should be doable, i.e. feasible. So you need to make sure that you're not sort of just suggesting something that would cost like billions of dollars or like would never happen on the planet Earth, right? In order to get your audience to buy into what you're suggesting. A convincing argument for your proposed solution. So you need to convince readers that your solution is feasible. So that's what I was just talking about. And that's the best way to solve this problem. So you really want audience buy-in. And that just means you want them to kind of agree with you and see the need for what you're proposing. Other key features, a response to anticipated questions. So you do want to kind of try to anticipate what someone might say when you define your problem and present your proposal. So some common questions that people would have in real life is like, well, how much does this cost? How long will it take? Is this the quickest solution? What needs to be done? What do I need to do? So you want to make sure that you're as clear as humanly possible, and you actually do really try to anticipate those questions. A call to action. So the goal of a proposal is to persuade readers to accept that the problem you define is a problem and to accept your solution. The solution may include asking readers to take action. So like, what do we need to do now? So some problems are very, very large, right? And they're going to take years, decades, whatever, to actually solve. And maybe they'll never be like full on solved. Maybe we're just kind of like mitigating damage. I don't know. So what do you want your readers to do now? Is it vote on something, right? Like, for example, here in San Antonio, we just voted on the extension of pre-K for SA, which is extending free pre-K to income people who qualify based on income. So obviously the call to action there is, hey, if you think that this is a good program, you should vote on it, right? Maybe it's calling a representative, maybe it's donating, right? What is the call to action? And then lastly, appropriate tone. So since you're persuading readers to act, your tone is important. So you do want to be reasonable, respectful, rather than maybe angry or self-righteous, because people are often very much turned off by that. So obviously kind of pretty short, but the idea is to kind of give you a good sense of what is a proposal. And of course, we're going to be learning more about the genre, like we usually do, in the coming weeks before you produce your rough draft and final essay. And as usual, if you have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to me.